to the microphones, it would be a help. Next item on the agenda is roll call.
Dennis M. Clark.
Here.
Becky Curtis. Here. Julie Osmond. Here. Roy Estes.
Here.
John Ingram.
Here.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public participation. If there's anybody wishing to address the council, please come forward to the manager. There's a sign-in sheet. If you give your name and your address, you'll be given 5 minutes to address the council. Okay, seeing none, that concludes our first public participation. Next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. Are there any requests to move items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will now read the items on the consent agenda.
Item A, motion to approve the minutes of the September 3rd, 2021 special session. Item B, motion to approve the minutes of the September 7th, 2021 regular session. Item C, motion to approve an original package including Sunday liquor license for Rudy's Discount Smoke Shop, an existing business located at 1315 North Walnut Street. Item D, motion to approve a 5% by Dream wine liquor license for Linda Krentz at 3rd Street Fusion LLC, a new business to be located at 219 East 3rd Street.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda is the manager's report. Manager Rasmussen.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I had a couple of items here. The first thing is I wanted to note that in keeping with the resolution from the last council meeting, the staff has worked hard to get information out about how we spent the ARPA funds, the American Recovery Plan Act, and we've put that out in radio station, newspaper article, information on the city's website and Facebook, and generally we have had good response from the public, and I have not gotten any negative comments about how that was being spent. I would say that we have another round of it coming up, and there will be a presentation in Savannah in a week or two, and several of us will be going over that, and they're going to be talking about the spending of those funds. So we'll begin to plan our preparation for the next round when that may come. And the finance director did note that we did get those funds in the first round, and they're on our account now. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the Great Northwest Wholesale Water Commission. Just about an hour ago, I got a call from Clark Thomas, who said that we are scheduled to go before the Senior Loan Committee this Thursday. So that keeps being put off, I guess, but it's not our fault. It's what they do in Washington. We continue to give them more additional information. The last thing I wanted to note, which wasn't in your report, was we're doing work on Bob Griffin Road, the north part, where it was badly deteriorated, and that's going to start tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And so Bob Griffin Road will be completely closed to through traffic for about 1 week. The businesses can get in there, but the through traffic will be closed while we get that much needed repair done. And that's all I have, unless someone has questions for me.
Questions or comments for the manager? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, manager. Next item on the agenda is EDOC. Mr. Rummery, do you have a report?
Short one.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Everything's moving along about like it was. I do want to bring you up to date. We had a project that we talked about. It's actually called Project Homes, and we have backed out of that project.
What?
Sorry.
What did you say, Project what?
Homes.
Homes?
With an L in it. And we've actually withdrawn that prospect. That was a high-tech prospect, and the more I went over it and over it, the more I talked to KCDC and all that, we would have had extreme difficulty finding the labor that they would need because of the education requirements and the high-tech end of it. So there was no reason for us to put in an application for that, because it was all basically was going to do was to take the state and KCDC's time, and we would have been eliminated from that. The good side of everything is, however, is we have another prospect that just came about through KCDC and the state of Missouri. Keep great detail obviously with it, but it's a good project, it's a high employment project, it's a high capital investment project, very high capital investment project. We are recommending, Zach has been great to help with this, we're recommending option 2 sites, one in the Clinton County side, one in the Caldwell County side. They only need about 15 acres. They will build their own building, it's always a good thing. And so we are putting it for that. That actually goes in Wednesday, has to be in Wednesday by noon to KCADC. So we'll be doing that. The last thing is that we are working on some retail things in the city. One of them would be very well received, I think, in the city if we're able to get that. It's not going to be easy because of some financial ends of not their end, financial ends of the facility that's already there. And but if we're able to get through that, and they're able to do that, the city will be very, very pleased, I think. So. Oh, one other thing. We did have the project, as you remember, Project Steel. One is going into your industrial park right now. The other one we tried to do, they have found a building actually in Gallatin. It suits their needs. It's 14,000 feet. It fit their needs really perfectly for them, and they've informed us they really appreciated hearing from us and trying to do that, but we just did not have a building for that. So.
Are there questions or comments, Mr. Ryan? Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, unfinished business. We have a second and final reading on Bill 2021-31.
Bill 2021-31, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cameron, Missouri, adopting a comprehensive fee schedule for regulating and assessing service charges, providing for collection of fees, amending the City of Cameron Code and zoning ordinances in conflict with the master fee ordinance, providing for severability, providing a penalty clause, and providing an effective date for applicable changes.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass Bill 2021-31 on the second and final reading by roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I've been thinking about this all week, or a couple of weeks, I guess, and one of the things that concerns me is the late fees. I personally think that we ought to remove the late fees because I don't believe that we apply them to everybody in the same way. And I think if you're going to have late fees, I think they should be applied to everybody in the same way.
What would a scenario be that we wouldn't apply late fees? I'm not doubting, I'm just curious for myself. And I guess I should say, is that something that we don't treat the same?
We don't.
Right.
Explain
Yeah.
what you're thinking.
One of the things that comes to mind would be, late fees on, registering your animals, which is basically due the 31st of January of
Yes.
each year.
I've been hit with those.
I wasn't gonna mention your name, but anyway, okay. And the late fees are supposed to, this is just an example, late fees are supposed to be $5 for every month after January the 31st. And, sometimes, so like if you've got, if you're 5 months after January the 31st, then you should be paying $25 late fee. That might be dropped to $5, that might be waived completely.
Does that happen?
Yes, it does.
Really? People get it paid?
Yes.
Wow, must be nice.
So the problem may
I
not be
never have.
the fee, the late fee, it may be how we administer.
All I'm saying is if we're not going to apply it the same to everybody, then we shouldn't have it.
Well-
I agree with that, but I think we ought to apply it to everybody.
Well, I agree, and I understand, that people wait till halfway through the year, and I agree with that is awfully high. We could do what the Department of Revenue does when you're late, it's $5 in. And that way, when it starts building, I'm sure the reason they have it $5 a month is to incentivize people to get their little rears in and get their tags. Some people just totally forget their busy lives. So,
Well, if they've had a pet before, they get numerous letters saying, you haven't paid your pet fee.
that's true, I got a call.
Okay,
Well,
so I don't know how, I mean, I understand about forgetting, but every month, or,
I get a
and
call.
it isn't just on pet fees either, but, or waived entirely, I mean, I'm just saying, it has happened, and I just don't think it's right if we're not going to apply it to the same, if we're not gonna apply it the same way to everybody, then I don't think we ought to have it.
Well, if that in fact is, yeah, I would say we probably need to look into this. That's the first time I've heard of this.
And I know sometimes,
That's just my view.
I've had utilities like internet or something, if I forget to pay my bill, and it's happened before, not for a while. But you can sometimes go on and if you ask, they'll waive the fee. Just saying, municipalities though might need to be a little different. I think it's a little more regulated.
Well, I never had.
But I do think that's happened. I do think if people talk to city officials, I do think that's happened.
Probably should not
Well,
have.
that's,
Either have it or don't have it.
That's the way I feel about it. Now, you asked for discussion, that's my discussion. I know how I'm gonna vote this time, but everybody else is free to vote the way they want, but that's how I feel.
is there somebody from the city that can communicate with us?
Well, yeah, I'll answer that question. We had a gentleman who came in a couple weeks ago. He had 2 cats, and he had them registered previously, and he forgot to register this year. And the months dragged on, and it was $10 for each cat, and so that would have been $20. But he also had was 5 months late, so that was $5 for each cat for 5 months, so that was $35. So that now is $45. So he had to pay $90 for registering his cat, and he understood that, and the city charged him for that, and he paid that. The reason that it builds up every month, it would encourage people to do it sooner. Maybe next year he'll try to do it sooner. I think that the city is obligated to enforce the ordinance on everybody and enforce it evenly, and the same to everybody.
But have there been fees that have been waived?
And I don't know about that, but what I would say is the staff should have discretion under extraordinary circumstances to waive those. For example, you and I were talking about the gentleman at the senior patio homes. Well, sometimes there are extraordinary situations, and someone should have the ability to make adjustments if there were good cogent reasons for doing that. Having said that, I would say that we would always enforce the ordinance the same to everybody consistently, with that slight caveat.
It's just the way I feel. We're either gonna have it and we're gonna enforce it, everybody the same, or we're not. That's just the way I feel.
I would hope that it would be that way on every single one of these fees.
Well, I would hope so too,
So,
but that's my concern about late fees. I mean, maybe we ought to wait until the next year when they get ready to, pay for any fee again, and if they haven't paid it, then they have to pay those first, and then the new ones. It's kind of like, we went to having the county collect our personal property taxes because they can't get their, new tags for their cars and stuff without it. So then they have to pay it in order to do that. Am I right? Is that the reason we did that? Yes. Because we had quite a few people that would their county and be able to get their renewal plates and all that. But with the city, they wouldn't pay that, the personal property tax for the city. If the county collects it, they have to pay it all, or they don't get their county,
Hey,
they don't get their county receipt that says they paid both city and county, and can't get them without it.
So what is the fee to have a dog or cat or pet that you don't have a license or report to the city? If you get caught?
I don't know that. I mean, I say probably what the, no, go ahead, Tim.
What did you say? I didn't hear.
He wants to know what happens if you don't have a dog or a cat that you've ever licensed with the city and you get caught.
We just informed them of our city ordinance requiring the license, your cat or dog. We send them, give them how much, well, we talk to them, see when they can get it done, and we try to work with them as far as getting them into the vet if they're not up to date with their shots, and then we set a deadline to have them done.
And then if they haven't had it done by the 31st, do they have to pay the $5 a month late fee?
If they were not aware of the city license, no, we would not charge them the late fee.
Yes,
But
we
it-
do.
yes, one day.
So is there,
The girls up front do,
Oh, okay.
yes.
so is there's an additional fine for not registered, is like a ticket?
Well, it's no, it's not a ticket. It's when you, like, I registered my dog 1 month late, and I came in and brought my certificate of rabies and licensed my dog, and I had to pay a $5 fee. It's just added on to the initial license fee.
No, I mean, you're walking your dog and the,
Never go off.
our animal control shows up. For whatever reason, the dog isn't licensed.
No, we just, like I said, we just communicate with them, explain them, make them aware of a city ordinance, and get their information, send them a letter, and give them a certain, like, 10 days to get it done. If they fail to not get their license, their pet's license, we try to give them an extension. If they continually not register the animals, then they get a citation.
When they come to City Hall, they have to pay it with the penalties unless it's a brand new pet or it's a puppy. And then if it's mid-year, it's just a new dog fee. But if it's an older dog, they do have to pay those. The girls at the front counter are not authorized to waive those fees.
Is there any estimate what kind of participation we have in the city?
Say that again?
Is there any estimate of what kind of legal participation we have in the city?
I would say, I mean, you're not gonna get an accurate number.
Right.
I would say at least 30 to 40% of the animals in city limits are licensed,
Are or aren't?
are licensed.
And the rest of them aren't?
Yeah.
Well, it's really easy to have an indoor cat nobody knows about,
Yeah.
so.
A lot of times when we respond to like animals at large, we find out where that animal lives or animal injured someone, then you find out a lot of information about that person and that dog that's not up to date on the shots, and that's not licensed with the city, so.
Okay, so as council, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to vote on this motion? Do we want to amend it, or do we want to postpone it and talk to the manager and put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
This seems to be the only one that is a building a penalty each month, all the others are just not that way.
And I might add too, that passing this does not restrict your ability to change the code. Anything that just, if you wanted to take that out, we could take that out of the code at a later time and then adjust the fee schedule.
I'm not overly worried about this. It's a small amount of money. We should be charging everybody late fees if they deserve them. That being said, in rare circumstances, a little discretion, in an extraordinary circumstance, I can see waiving a fee. I just don't, I'm gonna pick my battles. I don't feel like nitpicking on this is that big of a deal, although I do believe that charging late fees as warranted is an important thing to be fair in the community. So I'm ready to vote is basically what I'm saying.
Okay, well,
We're ready to vote, because we can adjust, if we were to drop it from 5 to two or whatever, we can do that whenever we want. Alright.
Okay. All right, then, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote by roll call.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Julie Osmond.
No.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
John Eber.
Yes.
Dennis M. Clark.
Yes. Bill 2021-31 passes, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, next item on the agenda, new business. We have a full reading on Bill 2021-32.
Bill 2021-32, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Cameron, Missouri and Barnett Metalworks LLC.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to pass Bill 2021-32 on the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Yes, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is the ordinance authorizing the city to enter into the lease with Barnett Metalworks. We discussed this at the last meeting in closed session. Again, the terms of the lease would be for a 5-year lease for $1,500 a month, and there is also the option there for them to purchase the property during that lease. So, we met with Barnett Metalworks last week. We went over everything. They were agreeable. Again, they did sign the lease and presume tonight. So.
Are there questions, comments?
I just want to say, it's nice that the city is also named on their insurance policy, and we get to see how successful they are for the first 2 years, and then it's an annual for the up to 2 more years. So I think that if they will hopefully prosper and be really good renters.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing Bill 2021-32 on a first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and pass Bill 2021-32 on a second reading by roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Julie Osmond.
Yes.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
John Eber.
Yes.
Dennis M. Clark.
Yes.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Sorry, jumped the gun there just a little bit.
Bill 2021-32 passes, 5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you for doing the full reading. That way we can get them in there October 1 now, so we'll get them in there here soon.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have the first reading on Bill 2021-33.
Bill 2021-33, an ordinance of the City of Cameron, Missouri, amending certain sections of the City of Cameron Code, updating references to the age of juveniles, minors, to comply with current state statutes.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to pass Bill 2021-33 on a first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I was just gonna explain that, the legislature passed a bill in 2018 that amended the age for juveniles from being under 17 to being under 18. That bill in 2018 did not take effect until January of 2021. But there's been some conflict between the court system and the juvenile courts about who was responsible for those juveniles, because a part of that legislation was supposed to fund some juvenile court processes. And so they just hammered that out this session and started paying for it, so it just kind of went into effect recently. We do have a few sections in our code, as you'll see in that ordinance, that do refer to juveniles as being under 17, and this code just updates all those to say 18.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing Bill 2021-33 on a first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, Resolution 2021-36.
Resolution 2021-36, a resolution setting code enforcement policy.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion to pass Resolution 2021-36.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. What I wanted to say here is we tried to capture all of the thoughts of the City Council through several meetings we've had on code enforcement to put this into a policy. And the purpose of that is to give the staff guidance to act on what the City Council's philosophy is, and also to give the public an idea of how we are doing that. We've tried to capture all of that in one document, which we would like to then put into effect. The one thing we've not done in this ordinance, however, is we did not, or this resolution, we did not put in it any information about the appeals board, which is something that I've talked to the City Council about. And we have 4 different possibilities on that, and the council would like to see what those look like. So since that's 4 different ordinances, we're drafting that, and we'll bring that back to you as a separate action next time. This is only the philosophy, but does not include anything about the appeals board. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Well, I have a question for Tim, if that's okay. In the past, giving people notice that there's an infraction generally took a letter of just acknowledgement, correct?
Yes, we always send out a notice of violation letter, and depending on the type of violation, whether it's a nuisance violation, they get up to 10 days to abate it. If it's a property maintenance, like an exterior structure problem, we give them 30 days to correct it, or make contact with us to come up with a plan of action.
Now, this says that you will do a voice first.
Yes,
How, have
If
we
we
done that?
can,
if we can.
What?
if we can.
I was gonna say, how, because I know I know what the back door is and all this, I've watched it over the
Yeah.
years.
Like a person for me, I don't know everybody in town, like I would either check the billing records to see if there's an active number on file, or talk with other staff to see if they may know that individual, try to make contact with them and say, hey, I got a complaint off my house, saw a violation, infraction, this is you need to address this, how can you abate this? And then, like one previous case I just did, they contacted the tenants and they make them aware of the violation. If they don't correct that violation, then that's when we go to the next step as far as actually going back and sending a picture of the letter for that violation.
So this was a renter, is this what we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah,
Okay. And you're gonna see that a lot with those?
yeah. And this certain complaint came in anonymously from somebody that called into City Hall. So,
We do get a lot of phone numbers through the utility process, but not all of them, and sometimes they don't work after, a year or something they've changed.
I like, just in your own thought, how much time would you take trying to verbally approach this person, this tenant?
I mean, you can do it in a matter of a phone call, or like I said, if you can visit that person. I just recently came back from a conference, and the other cities try to make, contact with them, whether it's a door hanger or doing a phone call. I would say I wouldn't spend no more than 2 days on it, trying to contact them. I mean, if you're able to leave a message, voice message, I think it should be their responsibility to get back with you. If they don't, just proceed forward from there.
So how long are you gonna wait once you try to attempt to make, I know you don't have this down in concrete, and anything you say, I know it's not in concrete. I'm just trying to make sure that this is good policy, is the only reason why I'm asking how this, I hate to do something and then cause more problem for the people that try to
I don't
make
think
it
it's a
work.
problem. I think what you're trying to establish is communication, to get them to understand why you get this violation notice or why I'm contacting you. Then it's their responsibility to try to, abate the violation.
We don't ever do the door hanger thing?
No, we've
That's
never done
exactly
the door
what it is.
hanger, but at the same time, you have to be comfortable going up to a door and knocking on the door and talking with somebody. Like I went to my last conference and I asked the gentleman about, doing a door hanger. I I said, do you feel comfortable going up to a door? He said, if I don't feel comfortable, I just take a picture door hanger and send that, include it in the letter that I send them, let them know there's a
Oh, that's
violation.
good, yeah.
But, cause you never know how anybody's gonna react.
Right, but I'm guilty of not paying my electric bill. Thought I paid it. Come walking in the house and something hanging on my door, I'm like, oh, oops. I immediately went and paid that bill.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think it's in this day of cell phones, it may be hard to track numbers down.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're relying on mail, which
Yeah.
sometimes that could be,
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't hurt, even if you're not knocking on the door trying to talk to somebody. Something on there saying, you have a notice of violation,
Yeah.
please call this number.
And when you do that, there's gonna be people that's gonna be offended that you put that on their door. So,
I get it.
what do you do?
I was embarrassed, there was hanging on my door that I didn't pay my electric bill.
Yeah.
But it got compliant pretty quick.
So how long are you gonna take it from trying verbally to actually send the notice in the mail?
I would say you make one attempt to contact them verbally. If it's unsuccessful, document it that you
Okay.
tried calling a number, it's inactive, or if you went to the door, no response, within 24 hours, then start the process. Because you have to remember, there's accountability and responsibility on their end. And, like I said, we'll work with anybody who has a problem, has an issue, but they have to be doing their part as well.
I don't think that we should have a resolution that encompasses the philosophy of the council when all of our philosophies are pretty much different. I mean, we all have a little bit different idea of what we think code enforcement should be like, and I don't know how you would put 5 philosophies in a resolution and hope that guides your employees, because if Becky and I don't agree on what the philosophy is, she's gonna be upset if it's not enforced, and I'm gonna be upset if it is.
Yeah, but you also have to understand that city council as a whole adopt the property maintenance codes, the RRC codes, the international building codes. Staff, they're the ones that's charged with enforcing it. When you're doing a job like this, you have to have the right personnel, the right person. You have to communicate to people. And
I agree with that. Why do we need a resolution?
I just think.
I mean, I don't understand why we need a resolution. I know exactly what you're saying, but why do we need a resolution then? I just think that we keep bogging down, I don't know whether on the bureaucracy of it all, with all of this stuff that we keep throwing at the employees, and if it were me, I would look at this and go, really? Because they know what most of our philosophies are. They've heard from people or read it in the paper or watched it on the video. We don't all have the same philosophy. You don't even in your own department have the same philosophy. Maybe you do in your department, but I don't think maybe the city manager has the same philosophy as your department does, or even somebody on the council. So how do you do that? How do you have a resolution if the philosophies are not the same?
My take on it is, your point is very valid, is that there's such a broad difference in philosophies that the manager and the staff has pulled a bunch of different directions. So if there's something in resolution form that at least the majority of the council agrees with, then they have some direction. But otherwise, they continue to.
Well, and I understand what that means, except Mr. Rasmussen made the comment that he was trying to encompass all philosophies. I don't know how to do that. I really don't.
We did the best we could to write into this all of the comments that everyone said. And in answer to the question, why do we need a resolution? We would like a resolution so we have something in writing that gives guidance to the staff. So when somebody, a council member or a member of the public says, why are you doing that? We say, well, because that is what the guidance is that we've gotten from the council, and we're trying to enforce that. And that gives us something to go back on.
Does that also help? I think there was a reason this all came about, Julie. I think the community was, noticing code enforcement was not being done anymore. And if you look at our city right now, it's pretty ridden with, overgrown grass yards and, even, downtown buildings and grass all over, businesses. And so I think that's what happened. So I don't know why that stopped. But I think maybe it's to make sure that the staff can continue to do what they're supposed to do.
I think it stopped because the philosophies are different. And
Well,
they don't know which direction to go. That's my opinion.
So where do you go from there?
Make a resolution, I guess. is
You
the
don't make
answer.
a resolution. I don't know why you have to have a resolution.
Well, they should be able to enforce code enforcement, but I think that stopped.
Right, because I don't think they agreed on how it should be enforced.
That's why they want black and white, so that you can't have somebody come and change
Okay.
the city's philosophy.
Okay, I
Is that
understand
right?
that. Okay, so it's in black and white. His philosophy, my philosophy, your philosophy, your philosophy, and your philosophy are all in black and white, and they're not the same. That's what I'm saying. Our philosophies are probably not the same.
Well, we all can read things and we can all interpret things differently, if that's what you're also saying.
Well, we can, but so can the staff.
So this is a consensus of 3.
I don't know what it is.
If it passes.
Well, what he said was, it's encompassed what we all said. I remember what I said. I said worst first. Take care of the worst first. I don't think that's in here.
It is in there, I believe.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Section 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have that same philosophy? Whose philosophy thinks that we ought to enforce every single code the way it's there? Do we have somebody on the council that does that? That thinks that?
That thinks what, sorry?
That thinks that we should enforce the codes that are on the books. Tim, does your department think we ought to enforce the codes that are on the books?
Yes, they do believe that. But again, it goes
Okay,
back.
so what's your philosophy?
Yes, I believe that, but they also can only be so many places at any one time. So, they will do the
Well, I
best they
understand.
can.
I understand
Fly
that.
the worst first.
I understand that. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't have the same philosophies. So, I just don't understand why we need a code, or a resolution. That's all I'm saying.
Am I correct in assuming, Tim and Paul, that, a resolution that you can refer back to gives you kind of that backup that you feel you need?
Yes, like Steve said, it gives us something in writing to provide that guidance of how you guys want us to enforce codes. You guys already made that decision when you adopted codes to enforce the codes. So again, it goes back to having the right personnel and being able to communicate with that individual. This is a code violation. Explain them how you abate the violation. Since I've been here for 4 years, code enforcement is tough here, it's tough in other communities. What it boils down to, you just have to do it. There is no in between. You're either gonna do it or you're not. You can work with an individual or work with the company to abate the violation, but you also have to have that same understanding that this needs to be done.
And it's also gonna be safety, helping our community to have safe living buildings so that the buildings don't fall down.
Yep.
And that is vitally important for us to
Yeah.
do.
Building codes are written to the bare minimum. Like I always tell Steve, it starts with that little small pinhole in the wall. Keep ignoring it. Next thing you know, you got a sunroof. So,
I just think we could be arguing about this for another year.
Well, we can.
I'm
That's
just
kind
like,
of my point.
Yeah.
Why do we need a resolution? We really shouldn't need a resolution.
So where does their guidance come from?
The codes.
And the city manager.
okay with this. I don't see anything that really I have a problem with. It may not encompass everybody's views to a T, but for me personally, I'm satisfied, and I think that it's workable, and I'm in support of it.
I think it's a place to begin, and then if we see that things need to be adjusted, that can happen. But at least it gives some sort of guidance, and at least the majority of the council has approved. And I think Councilwoman Austin is right, there's a lot of stuff that none of us agree on. But they need some sort of guidance, so I'm okay with this resolution.
It really wouldn't be a healthy council if we all agree with each other. Think about it.
Well,
That'd be pretty scary.
all right, well, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and vote. Okay. All right, so all those in favor of passing resolution 2021-36, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, next item on the agenda, resolution 2021-37.
Resolution 2021-37, a resolution for the City of Cameron, Missouri, supporting the Neighborhood Assistance Program, NAP grant application by the Cameron Amphitheater Council.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to pass resolution 2021-37.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Manager?
Thank you very much. As you may all recall, last council meeting, Mr. Gargas came in and asked us if he could get a resolution of support for our NAP grant for the amphitheater, and this is the exact one that he had asked for. And he's present to answer any questions you may have.
Other questions for the manager, Mr. Gargas?
Can you explain again the purpose of this, Mark? Or the reason we need this grant?
Well, you don't, but the amphitheater group does. What it is, it's an application for them so that they can go ahead and through Department of Economic Development, make an application, and if they're successful in getting that grant, it would allow them to get up to $500,000, and those people that donate the $500,000 would be eligible for a 70% tax credit. We've had some similar type projects, like YMCA's done that, and some different things. It's a good thing for those that want to make the donation, because they can take that off the federal and state tax. It's a way to raise $500,000. Doesn't have to come out of the city's coffers. It's basically a private way to raise it.
It's for companies, right? Organizations.
Right, yeah. This is just one way for them to reach their goal. Billy would have been here, but he's on a vacation with his family. He took off for about 60 days. And this application has to be completed by the 24th at 5 o'clock. So that's the reason why we're in a little rush trying to get this all through so that we can get this in for them. Houston Roberts is the person that's working with me through Okan Regional Council that's putting all this together. There's, I don't know, about 100 pages of everything that's going through. So yours is just a couple pages.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I also, on behalf of the council, want to thank you, Mr. Gargas, because you put in a ton of time, not just on this, but on a number of other projects. So thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution 2021-37, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. You know, there was unanimous and enthusiastic. Okay. Next item on the agenda, resolution 2021-38.
Resolution 2021-38, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cameron, Missouri, to enter into an agreement with the Cameron Amphitheater Board.
Thank you. Chair, would entertain a motion to pass resolution
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Yes, manager.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This follows on directly on the one we had before, and that is in order to apply for that grant, they had to have an indication of where the land was and a lease. So we also put this in. And do you have a picture of that, Zach?
It's in the back of the agreement that was left on your, table.
Oh, there it is, I just saw this in place.
Oh, okay. Well, if you all have that, you can see where that location would be in the community park. And this would be for $10 a year. We're not trying to make any money. There you go. There's where the amphitheater would be. We'll lease the land for $10 a year. It has a variety of time, but it was like for 5 years and then 10 years, depending upon the circumstances. You can read those circumstances in the lease. If you have any questions on it, we have John Mullane from Patrick's office here who did write that lease and has details of. There's a picture of it.
Yeah, that's just kind of over, just to give you just a general idea of where it would be in the park. That might not be 100% accurate, but it's ballpark figure.
Other questions, comments?
Why did we decide on a $10 lease? I mean, we leased the golf course for $1.
Yeah, I don't know why it was $10. Do you know, John or Jeff?
Invitation.
For good and valid consideration, I guess $10 a year counts.
Well, I would point out that it's not just $10, it's $10 plus any of the net proceeds that the amphitheater obtains beyond expenses.
It's also what?
Net proceeds that the amphitheater obtains, so the money beyond expenses that they get, so it's $10 plus the net proceeds.
Right.
But otherwise, as to specifics of why those terms were chosen, I'm not certain. I believe that was, as I think Patrick indicated to me, that was what the staff and the amphitheater board had agreed upon and determined that was a good business arrangement.
Am I to understand, just in glancing at this, that we anticipate the park board will approve this? This is what they're wanting.
I think we already have.
Yes,
Yeah,
they had a meeting on Friday, the
Yeah.
same time.
They were out
we had our
here
meeting.
Friday.
Okay. Okay.
So will this be a complete care, custody, and control with the amphitheater group? I'm saying if the local dance club wants to have a recital, they would have to go through this group for more.
Rental fees.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And then in turn, they charge for tickets.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution 2021-38, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay. That moves us into our second public participation. If there's anybody wishing to address the council, please come to the paperwork next to the manager, sign your name and your address. You'll be given 5 minutes to address the council.
Thank you very much. I do not need 5 minutes. I just have a comment and a question about the whole pet fee thing. And just to make.
Sorry, what was your name?
My name is Becky Mulford. I lived here for about a year, live in the Willowbrook area.
Milford?
Mulford, M-U-L.
Oh, sorry.
Why does Cameron have a yearly registration for a pet? I understand that you want to know that the pets are there and that they have their shots, but why is there a yearly fee to have a pet?
Well, part of that is for, are you,
No, we do not normally respond.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So you don't respond to a question?
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And the other,
But what we will do is I will get an answer and get that to you.
okay. The other thing that I would just like to comment is that, I agree with Councilman John, and I disagree with Councilwoman Julie, that, you have rules for reasons, and it's great to apply them, for everybody the same. But you need to give employees a little bit of discretion for extraordinary circumstances. For instance, let's say that an elderly lady has a cat, she has a pet, and she normally, registers it every year, and she lives alone, and she gets COVID, and she is just down and out for 3 or 4 months. Why do you need to charge her an extra $5 every month when she really couldn't have done it? She was just barely surviving. It seems like there are those little cases that it develops more goodwill to just say, I understand. We'll just waive this fee this time, or we'll just charge you the 1 month instead of the 6 month because we understand your extraordinary circumstances. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Is there any other one wishing to address the council?
I just wanted to ask, did you get your contact information on there so Steve can connect you?
Okay, that'll conclude our second public participation. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous comments from the staff. Start with the plan.
MML is having their Northwest Regional Meeting in Savannah on October 12th. If you guys will remember, Cameron hosted the Northwest Regional Meeting for the spring that they had sort of in the summer a couple of months ago. Savannah is hosting the fall regional meeting. It's going to be on Tuesday, October 12th in Savannah at 6 o'clock. And if any of you have time available on that day, please let me know so that I can RSVP. They're going to be talking about ARPA.
And we'll have 4 staff members going.
5 so far.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Director?
Nothing further.
Chief?
Just an update, a few council meetings ago, we came to council to ask to join with the ACCD and let the city of Cameron put down for a grant, and it was very successful. It came back, and I think we got everything we were asking for, so I just want to give you an update on that grant. That'll be new equipment for all the PSAPs or all the answering points within the ACCD. And then second, here when the council meeting's over, we're gonna have one of our patrol cars out front, so if you wanna come sit in the cars, we can kind of explain all the equipment we did with our grant and everything, if you'd like to see that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, what else? You have to say? Okay. Director? Director? Counselor?
Nothing, just say, happy to be here.
All right, happy to have you here. Okay, that'll conclude comments from the staff. Next item on the agenda, miscellaneous comments from the council. Councilman Ingram.
No, I don't have anything in particular, but thank you.
Councilman?
I thought it was a great article in the paper that we put in why we were using the ARAP fund, or whatever it is, okay. I thought it was very, explanatory, and I thought people would understand why we were using it, so I thought it was a great article.
That was, it was written by Drew, who was not here today, but I'll pass that comment on to him. Thank you.
Councilman?
Hey, I just mentioned twice that I got in trouble for my dog. I only had the dog 2 years, and it was on a trial basis first, so, yeah, then the second year, I just totally went, but I got a call, and we got it fixed. And, the shots go out every year, so that's why we have to relicense them every year. So, yeah, I have to take my dog to the vet every year, and all dog owners do. Other than that, I guess that's it. Thanks.
Go Dragons.
That's right. That's right. I just have a couple of things, and rather than putting it on the agenda, I thought I would just kind of mention this and look for head nods or shakes. Do we want to address the leash law that we currently have on the records for cats, keeping them under our control at all times? And do we want to look at getting a feral cat program going?
I want to do that forever.
So,
Can you explain the leash law again, and your thoughts on it? I know.
and the director can correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but I think that the way our ordinance reads, they want to have cats under your control all the time. From a practical standpoint, I don't know that that's really going to happen, because I see cats that clearly are somebody's pet running at large all the time. So, you know, I'm not sure, it kind of worked its way in when we were dealing with some stuff with dogs, and somebody said, well, we ought to do the same thing for cats, and it ended up getting in there. I'm not sure it really serves things. I'm not that knowledgeable about cats, but I have had, you know, since then, the occasional complaint about, you know, why are we doing this? Anybody ever seen a cat on a leash? And so, you know, I don't know that it's necessarily a fight that we need to pick. The feral cat issue is different. What we've talked about in the past is simply doing a trial program, actually trapping the cats, neutering them, and then turning them back loose. Because apparently, as I understand it from at least one vet, feral cats become very territorial. They'll run the other cats away, but they quit making other cats. So it would seem to be a reasonable experiment to me that I'm interested in investigating further, but I don't want to do that and bring that up to public discussion if everybody's sitting there going.
We've actually talked about this in a committee meeting about a year ago. We actually had a vet talk to us, and we talked to other vets. I think we even talked to a couple community, I can't really remember, but it's been about a year ago.
The biggest issue was the funding of,
That
we
was
thought it was
it.
a great idea, but
And I know cities actually get boxes to capture the cats, and I'm really for that, just to get them out. Well, then what do you do with them?
Well, that's the challenge. If we don't do something, we're just going to do more and more, because they multiply like cats. And I talked to somebody, I think it might have been Mr. Beckett, that you went over one situation that was something like 20 or 25 cats. And so I view this as a fairly inexpensive program. It sounds like there's at least some interest in that, so
Well, I was just gonna say, about a year and a half ago, I saw this on Facebook, and I believe I sent it to Mr. Rasmussen, and I know I sent it to Mr. Beckwith. Did you know in 7 years, a female cat and her offspring can give birth to 420,000 kittens?
maybe next time we look at finding some money for this.
I didn't know it either, and that's why I sent it out, because you and I have talked about that before, and I don't think that that's something that we ought to delay. I think we need to get started.
Well, I've been wanting to, yeah, I know, I've been wanting to since I got out of council.
Okay, let's go ahead, if you would, put both those issues on an upcoming agenda where it works. So thank you all for,
Are you wanting that on the council agenda or on a policy and procedure agenda?
you know, this thing's been talked about for years. Let's get it on the council level and make a decision unless it causes
How
a
are you gonna
problem.
fund it?
Fine.
I guess you guys better come up with a whole bunch of good ideas.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's go to what we're talking about. Okay. Okay, that concludes my comments. Next item on the agenda, we have executive session, attorney-client communication. Chair would entertain a motion that we go into executive session by roll call.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
John Ingram.
Yes.
Dennis McClure.
Yes.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Julie Osmond.